There is a town in America with 6 residents, no streetlights, and an unsolved murder. It sits at the top of our countdown of 5 small towns, each so deeply unsettling that locals warn outsiders never to visit. From fires burning underground for decades to vanished residents and documented cult activity, each entry earned its rank through verified records. We start at number 5, a place that has been slowly burning since 1962. In the 5th place, Centralia, Pennsylvania stands as a town erased by fire. In 1962, a coal seam beneath the streets ignited. No one noticed at first, but the ground itself began to breathe heat and smoke. By 1972, state investigators documented lethal gases venting through backyards, and court-ordered evacuation notices followed. Over the next decade, the EPA measured airborne toxins well above federal limits, marking Centralia as a Superfund disaster zone. Most residents fled, but a handful refused, living with the ever-present threat of collapse. The streets are cracked, the houses gone, and the landscape is scarred by warning signs and steam that rises even in winter. 2 unresolved missing person cases, one from 1998 and another from 2005, linger within a 20-mile radius according to the NamUs database. But that is not the worst part. The fire still burns, and no one can say when or if it will stop. A recent feature in the Columbia Record quoted a local who said, "You can visit, but you should not. This place never lets you leave the same." Centralia's disaster is visible, measurable, and ongoing. A ghost town not just by reputation, but by court order and environmental fact. Number 4, Glenham, South Dakota looks like nothing more than a handful of houses and a faded sign on the prairie. With a population hovering just above 100, most people pass through without a second glance. But in 2015, the Walworth County Sheriff's Report documented a homicide that shattered the illusion of quiet. A local farmer was found dead under suspicious circumstances. That event is so rare in a town this size that it still echoes in every conversation at the only cafe. The case remains open, with the sheriff's office confirming the investigation is active, and neighbors speak in lowered voices about what really happened that night. In 2019, the National Missing and Unidentified Person System listed a young adult from Glenham as missing. The file is still unresolved. For a town this small, even one disappearance feels like a shadow that never lifts. Crime statistics tell the story. Glenham's violent crime rate is 12 per 1,000 residents, an outsized number for a place with so few people, and enough to draw the attention of the true crime blogs and urban explorers looking for a thrill. Beyond the human tragedies, an abandoned landfill on the edge of town has triggered a State Department of Environment and Natural Resources advisory. Leachate warnings and reports of chemical seepage have left locals uneasy about their drinking water. The land itself feels tainted, as if the ground holds onto secrets just as tightly as the people do. A recent post on the Creepy Small Towns of the Midwest blog summed up the feeling. It warned that if you go to Glenham, do not ask questions, because some things out here are better left alone. Glenham stands apart because here the terror is not buried in legend or old disaster sites. It is written into the recent past, and the story is not finished. Number 3, Kennedy, Texas sits at a crossroads where violence, contamination, and shadowy legal disputes converge. On the surface, it's a small town surrounded by cattle ranches and mesquite brush, but the records tell a different story. In 2018, Police Incident Report number 18067 documented a double homicide on the outskirts of town. A ranch hand found dead under circumstances the local sheriff still refuses to discuss in detail. That case remains open, and it's not the only one. The National Missing and Unidentified Person System lists 2 unresolved disappearances within a 20-mile radius, one from 2002 and another from 2011. Both files are still active, with no closure for the families involved. But that's not the worst part. In 2019, the Texas Department of Environmental Protection released a report identifying a trichloroethylene plume seeping into Kennedy's municipal well field. Test results showed TCE levels above EPA safety thresholds, triggering a public health advisory and leaving residents uncertain about the safety of their drinking water. The contamination zone remains under active monitoring, its boundaries shifting with every heavy rain. As if violent crime and toxic water weren't enough, Kennedy's courthouse records reveal something even more unnerving. In 2020, civil docket number 2020CF1123 was filed, a lawsuit brought by a fringe religious group calling themselves the Children of the Dawn. The case alleges illegal property seizure, but rumors swirl about the group's secretive gatherings and their influence in the area. The file is not digitized, but the county clerk confirms the suit is real and ongoing. FBI uniform crime reporting data show Kennedy's violent crime rate at 15 incidents per 1,000 residents from 2020 to 2024, well above the state median. A 2022 Texas Gazette feature quoted a local, "People think it's just the heat that keeps strangers away. They don't know the half of it." Kennedy stands out because every threat, human, environmental, and legal, intersects here, amplifying an atmosphere that's impossible to shake. And with the cult suit unresolved and the groundwater still tainted, the sense of unease only deepens. Number 2, Esmeralda, Nevada is a place where the desert silence hides a far more dangerous reality. On the surface is just a scattering of weathered buildings and the crumbling remains of old mining operations. But beneath that dust, the ground itself is laced with radioactive waste. According to EPA Toxics Release Inventory data, uranium levels in the local watershed run at 2 times the federal maximum contaminant limit. State mining reclamation reports confirmed that abandoned tailings from decades of unregulated extraction still bleed toxins into the groundwater, leaving residents and any would-be visitors with more than just ghost stories to worry about. In 2013, the Elko County Police blotter recorded the unsolved murder of a tourist near the Black Hills mine, a case that remains open with no arrests and no clear motive. Esmeralda's record does not stop there. The National Missing and Unidentified Person System lists 3 cold cases within a 20-mile radius, one from 1995, another from 2003, and a third from 2016. Each file is still marked as pending, and the details are sparse. Locals rarely speak about these disappearances, but the names linger in the sheriff's annual reports like a warning. In 2015, a sheriff's department intelligence memo surfaced, referencing night ritual gatherings at the abandoned Leda mine. The bulletin describes small groups, ceremonial garb, and unexplained fires seen from the highway. While no arrests were made, the memo called for increased patrols and warned deputies to approach with caution. A 2021 episode of the Nevada's Ghost Towns podcast captured the unease, saying that some places feel empty and Esmeralda feels watched. The combination of environmental risk, violent history, and hints of occult activity makes Esmeralda more than just another ghost town. Here, every thread is layered: radiation in the water, cold cases that never close, and the possibility that something is still happening in the darkness beyond the old mine gates. The closer you look, the more reasons you find to stay away. And finally, in first place, Lowry, South Dakota is the definition of concentrated dread. With the population that hovers around 6, Lowry is barely more than a crossroads in a handful of weathered buildings. Yet for those who know its history, the town's isolation only sharpens a sense of unease. The official record begins with a single chilling event. In 2009, a traveling salesman was found shot dead at the edge of town. The Walworth County case file number 09183 remains open, and the investigation has stalled for over a decade. No arrests, no suspects, just a cold trail and a permanent stain on a place where everyone knows everyone else. But that is not the worst part. According to FBI uniform crime reporting data, Walworth County's violent crime rate sits at 19 per 1,000 residents, by far the highest in the state. In a town as small as Lowry, even one incident sends the per capita rate off the charts, making it statistically the most dangerous spot in South Dakota. The numbers are so out of proportion that state officials have quietly questioned whether Lowry should even appear on crime maps. Yet the data stands, and the reputation lingers. Just 3 miles from Lowry, the abandoned uranium mill has earned a permanent place on the EPA Superfund list. Federal records confirm that the site is still under remediation, with warnings posted about lingering contamination. Locals speak in hushed tones about the wind that blows across the prairie, carrying dust from the old mill into town. Officially, the EPA advises against drinking well water or lingering near the site after dark. The combination of environmental hazard and violent history is very even among America's most notorious small towns. But that is not the worst part. Lowry does not have a single street light. At night, the darkness is total, broken only by the sound of the wind and the faint hum of distant machinery. In 2020, in an interview on the Creepy Corner of America blog, one resident said, "After dark, you hear things out here that do not make sense. Outsiders do not last long. In Lowry, the danger is not just a story. It is built into the landscape, the statistics, and the silence that settles over the prairie when the sun goes down." Across all 5 towns, one chilling pattern emerges. Darkness thrives where answers run out. These places aren't just shaped by crime or disaster. They're defined by the silence that follows. In America's smallest corners, the unknown isn't past tense. It's still waiting. Would you risk a visit?